You know, when I first saw the First Descendant getting announced way back in July 2022, I honestly didn't think much of it. However, the First Descendant finally came out not too long ago this year, and after getting completely barraged by, well, this, I gotta admit I felt curious, and so a couple of weeks ago I downloaded it to try it out, because, you know, what's the worst that can happen? I waste a couple of hours of my life on a game that's probably not deep enough to keep me interested.
Fuck.
Well, I guess I like this game. Or do I? Now, I say this because there are definitely things that I like about the First Descendant, but there are also things that I absolutely despise about this game. And no, this video isn't meant to be a rant about Nexon, even if I do have to rant for a bit about a particular area of the game. Besides, Nexon actually seems to be taking player feedback to heart, and having played mostly every day these past weeks, I can actually vouch for them actively doing stuff to make the game better. More on that later. Anyway, let's begin by talking about the very colorful and lightly clothed elephant in the room. Yes, the First Descendant has absolutely earned the moniker of Goner Simulator 9000. This game probably has some of the most shameless and unapologetic approach to character design I've seen in a current to next-gen video game besides Stellar Blade, which I genuinely loved, by the way. Cakes, cakes, cakes. There are cakes everywhere you look. It's enough to make a man dizzy, and you know what? I applaud Nexon for being so completely unrepentant with their character designs. Like, some of these skins are absurdly gorgeous, and that's not to mention the various ultimate versions of the Descendants you can unlock. Most of you have probably seen Ultimate Bunny by now, and I actually had a visceral reaction when I saw this character for the first time. How is it even possible for official skins like this to even exist? Is this real life? All I knew after starting my adventure was that I needed this version of Bunny, and I needed it now. And so with my reading glasses polished and ready, I did my research. And the more research I did, the more dawned on me that grinding to unlock Ultimate Bunny was gonna take me a long ass time. But you know what I also learned? Well, I learned you can actually buy Ultimate Bunny right away. And so, you know, my heart skipped a beat.
And what is that, bro?
Are you telling me I can just skip the arduous grinding process?
Yes! Yes!
So I headed into the store, looked up Ultimate Bunny, and 5,000 of this purple currency. Okay, well, it's probably not too bad. Let's... Oh no. You see, the First Descendant has, just like any other live service game, their own currency that you can buy with real-world money called Caliber. Now, live service games have always been viewed with a certain amount of disdain because publishers and studios can just set an arbitrary price on things in an effort to empty your wallet. The First Descendant is different, however, because it's the first game where it's actually going to cost you literally an arm and a leg to purchase a single Ultimate Descendant. 5,000 Caliber is equal to $100.
What the fuck?
I wish I was joking. $100? That's as much as a copy of a AAA game costs you today. And you know what? It's mostly only a skin because the difference in power between a normal and an Ultimate Descendant is actually negligible unless you're min-maxing. Also, you can't change the color of the base skin yet. So, yeah. Now again, I applaud Nexon for their taste in character design, but really? One skin for the price of an entire AAA game? Sure, the First Descendant is free to play, and you can grind for most items completely without any cost. But come on, man, these prices are actually outrageous, and it's not at all surprising to me that Nexon has garnered a reputation for being one of the most greedy studios working today. Another example, of course, is the various power-ups you'll need to get to make your Descendants stronger. Take the Energy Activator, for example. These consumable items increase your mod capacity for a Descendant of your choice. Mod capacity being the number of slots your mods will take up to make you stronger. Now again, you can grind for these Energy Activators and craft them one at a time while having to wait about 30 hours for them to complete, or you can just speed up the process by paying $10 and get them instantly. Or you can simply head into the in-game store and just buy them outright.
How dare you!
Now, I'll give you this, the First Descendant isn't a competitive game. Yet. And so I don't necessarily care that much about this point in particular. What annoys me is how incredibly gated everything is, and it's obvious that Nexon is pushing you hard on swiping that credit card so you don't have to spend time kicking rocks. Now I hear you, but it's a looter shooter, you're supposed to be grinding, that's the entire point. Yes, I agree, but the point I'm trying to make here is that everything that requires crafting requires an inordinate amount of time to finish. If I want to craft my ultimates, for example, which I've done for all of my ultimates, by the way, I'll first have to grind for 4 different blueprints, 3 of which are all very rare drops, which will most likely take you days and even weeks to get. Now, when you finally do have your blueprints, you then have to grind for all of the materials for each blueprint, which will take you even more time to do. Finally, when you've crafted each blueprint for your ultimate, you will then have to wait for many hours until the ultimate is finally complete and usable, upon which you'll have to restart the process of adding sockets and energy activators to make them stronger. You guys see what I'm trying to say here, right? I don't have a problem with the concept of grinding for materials in video games. World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, Final Fantasy XIV, Genshin Impact, and many more games all have varying levels of grind. But what I feel is partly missing from the First Descendant is this idea of progression and satisfaction. At the end of my long grinds for my ultimates, I've never felt that degree of satisfaction of finally unlocking my ultimate. I'm just always relieved to be done with them. It's not that good kind of satisfaction, you know? Another major issue I have with this game is the incredibly repetitive process of leveling up your character each time you slot in a new catalyst to make room for more mod capacity. Every time you use one of these on one of your descendants, your level resets to 1, and you have to level all the way up to level 40 again. And I can't tell you how many hours I've spent doing the same mission over and over again to effectively farm experience. It's literally headache-inducing, and I would skip this process if I could, because it's just not fun. But, as I mentioned earlier, it does seem like Nexon are trying to build a better reputation as they've actually been listening to player feedback throughout the entire development process and after the launch of the game. An example here is Luna, a newly released Descendant that, while being a gorgeous and interesting character conceptually, is pretty lackluster to play as, and most people seem to agree. Now, Luna is a support character that buffs her team with the help of music, sort of like what Octavia does in Warframe, but worse. However, there was also a module that released with the release of Luna, and by using this module, Luna turns into an AoE machine that's just much more fun to play than her standard gameplay loop. The problem is that this module was locked behind the then strongest boss in the game, Gluttony. Now, because Gluttony is almost impossible to beat without a coordinated party, many people ran into a wall when they were trying to obtain this module, and the only way to get around it was to grind easier bosses to get a random chance at getting the mod by gambling away other mods. So Nexon actually listened to the feedback and made the module available as a drop from the easiest hard boss in the game, meaning that many players are now enjoying Luna much more than they did upon her release. So I gotta commend them for that. Now, Nexon has said that they're looking at adding many more quality of life functions to the game, and they seem to be hard at work with all of this. And there are tons of changes coming to the game, too many to mention in this video, quite frankly, but I at least wanted to commend them on that as well. Listening to player feedback should by all means be commended just as much as you should criticize them for non-friendly practices. For example, I really think they should introduce a pity system to the game to shorten the time you have to run around grinding for materials. Either that, or simply remove some of the parts you need to craft for certain things like ultimates. Or maybe, you know, a trading system like the one in Warframe. Anything to make the process of crafting less of a slog, really. All this said, I actually enjoy the game a lot just in terms of gameplay. I've heard some sentiments out there that the game lacks build crafting, etc., but that's just a straight up lie. You can absolutely make different builds for your descendants, and Glaive, for example, is a tremendous gun user with astronomical potential for some insane damage, but you can also build her into a pseudo-immortal with insane self-healing. Luna, as mentioned before, can act as a party buffer or an AoE damage dealer and even sort of a dancing tank. I'm not gonna lie, the First Descendant has some real potential as a long-lived live service game. It looks really good, it plays super smooth, characters are unapologetically gorgeous, and the gunplay is also really satisfying. A lot of the various abilities are really powerful and fun to use as well. The best part is definitely fighting the various Void Intercept bosses. They're not perfect though, as some encounters are definitely less fun than others. I'm looking at you, Molten Fortress and Gluttony. But for the most part, I'm having most fun fighting these titanic boss battles, and the game really challenges you with these encounters. Maybe less so with a fully equipped character, but still, it's so far the best content the game has to offer. And speaking of bosses, what the hell is up with Nexon's obsession with balls? Anyway, at the end of the day, the only problem I really see standing in the way of the success and the longevity of this game is the unfortunately predatory microtransaction system set in place. Look, I understand the need to make money, especially so since this is a free-to-play game, but it doesn't surprise me at all that many players just shy away from the game because of its reputation.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
And this is unfortunate because the First Descendant is actually a good time, but it can get frustratingly time-gatey at times, and I really hope the player base keeps nagging Nexon to make changes that's more player-friendly, because I really want to keep playing this game, but not at the cost of my sanity. All in all, keep making those heart attack-inducing skins, Nexon, but please, for the love of Bunny's thundering cheeks, do something about those insane prices already. Mr. Alton, signing out.